Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are here to go through my AFL 2023 mid-season AFL ladder predictions. And in today's video, we're going to be going through our mid-season ladder predictions. Now before I do start, I just want to say that this is my opinion. Everything in this video is my opinion. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And also, this video is recorded and definitely uploaded as well before round 13, but if anybody's watching this video later on down the track, this video was recorded before round 13 of the 2023 AFL season. But mid-season line predictions, here we go. In 18th, we've got West Coast. Everything in this video is my opinion again. But yeah, in 18th, we've got West Coast. Look, I think they're going to finish 18th. They were alright against Collingwood. They showed a bit more effort, but still got blown away in the end. I still feel like regardless, they're going to finish 18th anyway, because sides like North and Hawthorn are still playing a bit better than they are anyway. So yeah, they're going to be playing catch up, and they might be able to get another couple of wins, but yeah, that'll be at best. I think they'll be finishing 18th this year. 17th got Hawthorn. Now, this one between 16th and 17th was tough, but I decided to shove Hawthorn down to 17th because their performance against Port Adelaide was dismal in the first half, bounced back in the second half, but I feel like against better sides, they're probably going to get blown away. Yes, I reckon they'll probably surprise and win a couple more games and maybe a couple of upset games throughout the rest of the year, but I still think they're going to finish in 17th. It was tough between North Melbourne and Hawthorn who to put in 17th and who to put in 16th, but I'm putting North in 16th. Their form of recent weeks has been good. I think they can definitely surprise and beat the Giants at Blundstone Arena, and I reckon they'll be able to potentially pick up another 1 or 2 wins throughout the rest of the year as well and get a decent win tally to finish off their year. I think they'll finish in 16th and have a decent end to their season. Now, the final spot up for grabs in the bottom 4 was a tough one, but I've gone with the Giants in the end. They've surprised a couple of teams with some upset wins this year, but I still feel like besides that, they've been okay, the Giants. But yeah, this weekend versus North Melbourne is going to be a big game to decide whether they're a bottom 4 side or not. But anyway, though, we can't speculate on what may happen in the future. But I think they're going to finish 15th. I think they are going to be the unlucky side, which does finish in the bottom 4. But yeah, this one might be close. I've got Carlton in 14th. Didn't put them in the bottom 4. Don't feel like they'll finish bottom 4. That's why I put the Giants in there instead. I feel like they'll finish bottom 4 instead of Carlton, because I think Carlton might, not necessarily, they're not going to make the 8 or anything, but I don't know. I feel like they're still going to drop, and they're not going to win a heap of games this year, and they're definitely not going to win enough to make finals. They could contend. They could finish like a little bit higher than 14th. 14th is probably the lowest they'll go. I mean, 15th is definitely the rock bottom that they'd go. But I think 14th is probably where they'll finish in the end. But yeah, Carlton in 14th for me. In 13th, I've got Richmond. This one could potentially be a little bit higher or a little bit lower depending on how Richmond go. It can be a little bit of a surprise ball game sometimes with the Tigers week in, week out. They win versus the Giants was really good. And they've still got a couple of sides at the MCG like Hawthorn and North, which they should be able to win. They've got the Saints twice and could potentially win one of those games. So I still do feel like the Tigers, they're going to actually come in charge and finish off the year. I don't think they're going to make finals. It's quite tough for them. And yeah, but I think they're going to have a bit more fight through them for the rest of the year. And 13th is probably the lowest they'll go. They could potentially finish a little bit higher if they can snare a couple of upset wins. But yeah, I think they'll finish 13th. In at 12th, I've got last year's grand final losers, Sydney. Now, look, they can definitely finish high on this. In fact, they can still make finals from here if they get their act together. Thursday night, SCG versus St Kilda is going to be a big game. If they lose that, it'll probably mean the Saints will make finals, and they probably won't. If they win it, their finals is potentially back on track. And even though I feel like they'll win that game, I still don't know if they're going to make finals anyway. I just feel like with their missing personnel and with their missing key players, their VFL side doesn't have any key players to go and get. And yeah, some players being a little bit out of form as well. That's why I just feel like they're going to finish 12th, because I feel like they've got some big games coming up. Obviously, as we know, a good side that has a tough fixture, and I think that's just going to hinder their chance of making finals, and that's why they'll finish 12th. In at 11, I've got Gold Coast Suns. The Gold Coast Suns, I think they're just going to fall short this year. I think it's going to be very tough between 11th and maybe 6th or 7th or potentially even 8th and 11th. I think it's going to be very tight around those areas, and I just feel like percentage here is what's probably going to be the difference between them making and losing finals, and maybe a game or two as well. Their last 2 weeks in the Northern Territory have been great. They can definitely make finals from here, but I just feel like with some of the other sides, especially Essendon being one of the other contenders with how easy of a fixture they've got, I think it is still going to be relatively hard for Gold Coast to make finals. They have to win a couple of upset games if they want to get in there, but they are well and truly capable of winning a few upset games and making the finals if they can do that, plus winning the games they need to win. But look, they can definitely finish higher than 11th if they do win a couple of upset games. So they're not out of the finals race just yet, but 11th for me. In at 10th, I've got the Adelaide Crows. Now, I personally think they'd make finals if they could win a couple more games, and probably would make finals and be in finals, potentially even in contention for the top 4 at the moment if they could have done a couple of things right. They've been on the wrong side of some close games this year, games versus Collingwood, the Giants, for example, and even the Suns game was a relatively close one until they lost a little bit more late. But look, they've got a fortress of the Adelaide Oval, no doubt about that. But the concern lays interstate. They can't win interstate. They're a different side interstate. That's why they're going to finish 10th, because even though if they win every Adelaide Oval game and probably that round 24 game versus West Coast at Optus, they can probably still get in. But I don't think they're going to win every Adelaide Oval home game because, look, they got the power in one of those games, and there's a very good chance they've probably got another tough opponent somewhere in there as well at the Adelaide Oval. And, yeah, they can't rely on that to make finals. You've got to win interstate as well, and that's why, for me, they'll finish 10th. In at 9th, I've got St Kilda. This is probably my biggest call in the ladder. I think the Saints will drop out of the 8 and finish 9th. And I'm actually not the only one that thinks they can drop out and miss finals here. Now, they're not going to miss finals by an extremely long way. They're not going to finish 13th or anything like that. But I do feel like they're going to drop out and finish 9th. They haven't been great in the past few weeks, really. Going back to round 7 or something, they haven't really been that great. And if they can get their act back together and get better after this bye, they can potentially still finish inside the top 8. But I just feel like that they've been a little bit predictable. Teams know how to play against St Kilda. And, yeah, I think they're going to finish, unluckily enough, 9th this year for the Saints. It was very tough between 8th and 9th. That's why I put the Saints in 9th, because I put Essendon in 8th. I think Essendon are going to make finals this year, only just though. Probably just by percentage, in all honesty. Maybe by a game, maybe by percentage. But I think Essendon are just going to squeeze into the finals this year because of how easy their fixture is. Gaining a bit of percentage here throughout the rest of the year is going to be quite important for Essendon to make the finals. If they do end up drawing on games with the Saints, like same win-loss record, they'll definitely need some percentage. I think they'll be able to gain that. They've got the easiest fixture coming up in the competition, and that just paves the path clear for them to make finals this year. With an easy fixture coming up, I think that's definitely going to allow them to finish 8th. In at 7th, they've got the Western Bulldogs, and 2 weeks ago I had them sitting inside the top 4 or 5th, but they're not going to finish top 4 anymore. They can't stand up in big games. They needed to win against Gold Coast, couldn't do that. They needed to win against Geelong, couldn't do that. And their top 4 hopes are gone now. And I'm going to say that quite comfortably, that they're gone. They're not going to make the top 4 this year, which you'll be able to see my teams, which I've put in the top 4 a little bit later on this video. But look, the Western Bulldogs have been a bit disappointing, in all honesty, because I thought they'd be able to make the top 4, or at least have a good crack 2 weeks ago. But 2 weeks on, 2 losses. And look, the Western Bulldogs, they need a win against the Power on Friday night for sure. I think they're going to finish 7th. I think that they're going to be able to finish off the year relatively strongly, but yeah, I only think they're going to finish in 7th. In at 6th, I've got Geelong, and I think they're going to have a good back into the year. They've got players coming back from injury, and there is definitely a chance they can finish higher than 6th. They can definitely finish higher than 6th, can the Geelong Cats, especially with all of their star players coming back, Paddy Dangerfield just being one of them. And yeah, I think that they can definitely finish higher than 6th. But I think they will just finish in 6th, because I still feel like sides are going to be able to beat them. And I feel like they've already taken a few losses this year that it's going to be tough to make the top 4. That it's not impossible. They can still do it for sure, but they still do have some sides like Port Adelaide, Melbourne, Collingwood, and Brisbane. And those Port Adelaide and Brisbane games are at the Adelaide Oval and at the Gabba, so they're not the easiest games. So that's why I think the Cats are going to finish in 6th, because I still do feel like some sides above them on the ladder currently, and at the end of the season, will still be able to beat them. In at 5th, I've got Fremantle, and this is another sort of interesting call here, which I've gone, I think they're going to finish off the year with a charging surge, and I think they can beat just about any side at Optus Stadium. Now, this is one of those calls which I'm going to look back at the end of the year and go, very good call or horrible call, because they might bomb out and only finish in the bottom half, like bottom 2 of the top 8, or might miss finals. I couldn't see them missing finals from here. They've still got some big games at Optus Stadium, like versus Brisbane, versus Port Adelaide, and then they've still got some pretty big interstate games as well, which I think they're going to be very competitive in for the most part. But look, I think those wins against Brisbane and Port Adelaide at Optus Stadium are musts if they do want to finish in 5th and be a genuine chance for top 4. I don't think they'll make the top 4, but look, 5th, that's pretty awfully close, and an elimination final at Optus Stadium is definitely a dream for the Dockers. That's what you'd be definitely wanting, because that'll probably get you straight through to a semi-final. First team in the top 4 got Melbourne. This side just continues to do what they need to do week in, week out. Sometimes it's not pretty, but it's just what they need to do. They're getting the wins. They're going to finish top 4. They might just miss the top 4, but I could see that being relatively unlikely. They've still got some tough games coming up versus Collingwood, versus Geelong, versus Brisbane. And I mean, if they do lose some of those 50-50 games, it might not look as good, but I still feel like they're going to be able to make the top 4. Oliver's returning, and at the end of the day, when you look at this team, there's just firepower everywhere. I can't see this side missing the top 4 this year. In at 3rd, I got Brisbane, and I do feel like that Fremantle versus Brisbane game later on in the year is going to be very critical to their year, because if they can get the result there, they'll probably finish 2nd. And they've got some big games at the Gabba coming up as well. They've still got some big sides. They've got Melbourne, Geelong, Fremantle, as I said before. They've still got some very big sides to come, Collingwood, throughout the rest of the year. And if they can win most of those games, for all, they can finish 2nd. But if they lose most of them, they can still finish probably maybe 3rd, as I have them here, or 4th. So it's going to be an interesting end of the year to see how Brisbane go in those big games. But I think with some of them being at the Gabba, they're going to be able to handle it just fine and finish in 3rd spot. Now, in 2nd, I got Port Adelaide, and this is massive. The difference between 2nd and 3rd's been talked about a lot in the AFL. For Port Adelaide and Brisbane, the sides that will most likely be fighting it out. For these interstate clubs, 2nd is important as it's a home qualifying final. Should you win that home preliminary final, and you're probably just about in the grand final at that stage when you get that home prelim, should you win the home qualifying final, should you finish in the top 2. And because I think we all know which I'll be showing you next, who's going to finish first, 2nd becomes all more important. And I think Port Adelaide will finish in 2nd. They've looked really good this year. They're often running really well. And yet, 2nd is crucial this year between Brisbane and Port Adelaide, because we both know the Gabba is a tough place to play, and Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval is a very tough place to play as well. So 2nd and 3rd this year is going to be a very interesting fight out, and I think Port Adelaide will finish in 2nd and grab that big home qualifying final, which could potentially allow them for a home prelim. In 1st, they got Collingwood. They're doing so well this year. They're the best side in the competition for sure, and I definitely think they're a very good chance at the flag, and I reckon they're going to be the minor premiers this year and finish 1st. Look, there's not a lot to say about this side because they're just that good. They're great. And yes, they've still got some big bumper games coming up against Port Adelaide, against Brisbane, against Geelong, against Melbourne. They've got some big games, and obviously a good side last year has been given a tough fixture. But look, I reckon they can definitely win some of those games and definitely have a very good crack at the minor premiership, and that's where I think they'll finish this year, in 1st spot, the minor premiership, and I reckon they'll be the premiers this year unless if something goes wrong during finals. Well, there we go. Those are my AFL 2023 mid-season ladder predictions. Wow, what a year it is going to be, and this is only the mid-season, and I'll probably have another version of this coming out a little bit later on in the year, in maybe about 2 months' time or something, an end of year ladder predictions, because it's going to be a very good run home that we've got. But at the moment, we're only in the mid-season. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As you know, this was my opinion. yeah, so you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. But anyway, though, thank you guys all so much for watching. Please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that and subscribe and hit that notification bell. So then you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much. And bye everyone. Flame Footy out.